Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we're going to be starting our new junk journal with a cover made of cereal boxes. I did originally try to use parchment paper with the cheesecloth to get the look that I was looking for, but it ended up turning into a big mess. It was very bulky. I didn't like it, so I ended up stripping everything back down. So we're back to the cereal boxes now. I'm gonna resize them. It also seemed a bit clunky when I was moving things around, so I want to shape it up a little bit better. And I'm also showing you guys, I bought the two-sided tape from Scott's, I believe, whatever the brand name is, and I did not like it, guys. I'm an old school stick person. I like glue sticks, and this really it didn't do it for me. Like, it's tacky enough, but everything came off really easily. It still feels like it's almost like a placeholder, like it wants to be glue, but it's not. Kudos to you guys that are using it. I don't really care for it, so I did replace my big Elmer's glue stick, and we're just gonna go from there. I'm also showing you guys that I got my new cutting pen, and looking forward to using that too. I haven't had one of those in a long time. So at this point, I'm just reshaping the boxes and figuring out how to clean up my corners a bit to make things a little more aesthetically pleasing. So now that I have straightened everything out, I cut the top and bottom to line them up with the far edge of the book that I'm going to use as kind of a closer. I wanted to make sure that everything was a bit more square and straight, just so that when I fold the paper over, I'm not having all these weird random corners until I put the cheesecloth back on top. And just clearing the workspace a little bit here. So now I have the front and back covers pretty even, pretty square. I like the way that they're shaped now. I'm going to go ahead and line up the paper that I've already hole punched, and what I've been using is kind of a guide for the size of the covers. I'm going to use my regular hole punch here since the covers won't fit into my 3-hole puncher, and just use my single puncher to go ahead and put those guide marks into the front and back covers so that everything is aligned when I get ready to put the book together. So I just wanted to show you guys the width of the cardboard that the hole puncher could kind of fit. As I was punching these holes, I struggled a little bit, but I already had the back cover punched through, as you guys saw. And so I just needed to align the front cover and make sure that I was going into the same space. So now everything is lined up, and my guide is looking good for the placement inside of the book, so I'm happy with that. As you can see, those sticky tape tracks are still somewhat tacky, but anyway, as far as the design for the book this time, I wanted to base it off of one of my favorite rooms. Just showing you guys the cords that I plan on using to close the book. But I wanted to base it off my favorite room, which was back in Thailand. I'll share the name of the hotel with you guys later on, but it was so gorgeous. These wonderful curtains that I'm going to replicate with the cheesecloth, and that beachy blue and sandy view. We were on the beach. It was a great time. I got this paper out of my Amazon packaging. And so I'm going to be using this to kind of recreate that beige and sandy aesthetic feel that I had at that hotel, and let that be the basis for the cover of the book. I'm just kind of lining it up to measure it here and see how much I'll actually need. I ended up having to use 2 separate sheets of it, or to line it up, I guess, in 2 separate layers to cover the entirety of the box. And now that I got the paper lined up to where I wanted it to be, I went ahead and started folding it over to kind of see where it would land on the back of the page. And guys, this is definitely not going to be the super neat, super perfect aesthetic journaling channel. This is very much junk journaling and scrapping and memento based. So I'm not going to be perfect on this. I do work in healthcare, so perfectionism is kind of a standard that I'm having to fight against in my everyday life. And when I'm in a creative space, I just like to, I don't know, kind of take things back to how it was on in the school days, and just do things and see how it comes out. So I hope that you guys can appreciate the creative journey that we're going on together as I go back and share all the memories that I'm trying to condense into this book. And I guess I should talk to you guys about why I'm making this book as well. I've been on a lot of trips. I've done a lot of traveling in my life, and I used to junk journal a lot and kind of put it down out of not having the time, or trying to, be more productive and focused in money making spaces and in my career and things like that. And so I kept collecting all of the things that I have from my trips and just never organized it and put it together. I don't have it in a place where I can lay it out and look at it and, you know, mesmerize and think about all the experiences that I've had. So I'm taking the time now to kind of put that all into this book and let it grow how it wants to grow. And so this is like a really personal project for me as well. And I hope that you guys enjoy dancing down my memory lane. And I look forward to getting to know all of you and the experiences that you've had in these places as well. But anyway, I've gotten down to folding the bottom half of the book and kind of spacing it out. I like how it looks so far. The two-sided tape was actually coming in handy to kind of keep the paper where I wanted it before I was ready to glue things down, and also allowed for the natural wrinkle in the paper to give that sandy look, which I'm really enjoying at this point. I keep rubbing on it. It makes this really nice noise. I don't know if I include it in the video. Maybe I might let you guys hear it. But I don't know if you guys are like going to be an ASMR audience, but we'll see. You know, if you're into that, let me know down in the comments. You can let me know. Again, I did refill my big Elmer's glue stick, and this glue stick is so much better now than it was back in the day when I was doing it. Like, it actually does dry clear, and I've really been having a ball using the glue sticks again. But the purple kind of noting out where the glue is, like, I don't know, you know, Elmer's, you did your big one with this one, so I'll give you guys all your props. I like this glue stick. And no, this video is not sponsored yet, but Elmer's, you can hit me up. Anyway, so I am gluing everything down here. Again, not too worried about being perfect. And maybe if I was leaving it uncovered, I would focus a little bit more on the cover corners and things like that. But I am once again planning to cover it with a cheesecloth, and then I'll be doing an internal cover for the book as well. So and again, not too worried about being super neat here. I did take the other piece of the paper and started to cover the top half. So that's what I'm doing in this space, just kind of seeing where it's going to land, folding it over like I did on the bottom, and making sure that the overlap isn't too distracting, but enough. I have just enough paper to do the front of both of these boxes and barely enough for the back. So I do have to be a little bit more careful about how much I'm using this time around. I think I have one extra piece sitting over on the side. So just cutting off what I need and then putting the rest to the side for the other box. So once again, I'm just kind of folding it over the top and then folding it on the sides to make sure I have that overlap with the original piece that I put on there, and marking where it'll go, kind of making those folds. So once I get ready to glue it, everything will just kind of fall into place really easily. If you guys randomly see me putting glue like to hold down corners and stuff like that, I really truly am just loving being messy with it. So it's going to end up everywhere. Fair warning. And yes, I did consider kind of taking some of that extra paper out of the corners, but ultimately for ease. And because I'm putting that cheesecloth over the top again, I just left it on. I'm really loving the way that the paper, the natural wrinkle in the paper is laying. It looks really, really beachy in person, and now that I'm looking at it on camera, it looks really nice. And so I did notice that the paper was causing a bit of tension in the natural folds that the box had. And so I wanted to kind of take some time to flatten that out. So I laid it down flat to make sure that glue stays in place on the underside, and went ahead and grabbed my 12 by 12 paper sheet that has a little weight to it. The 12 by 12 stock cards, I'm sure you guys are familiar with. Just put that on top to kind of give it some weight and hold it down while it dried, so that everything dried in a place where I expected. And then I went to work on the back book cover to cover it with our quote unquote Amazon sandy paper. Once I did that, and you guys can see my messy glue all over the place, of course, love it. Once I did that, I put the back cover underneath the 12 by 12 card stock to dry. And then I pulled the top cover that we were working on back out. Now that it was held in place, I went ahead and bent my closer corner, I was calling it, to make sure that the paper stayed in place. And you guys can see that it's pretty sturdy, it looks like, and bent pretty easily. So I'm happy with that. And then I also wanted to make sure that I did not lose the places for my hole punchings. And so I found those by hand, and then used the sharp pen as well as my regular hole puncher to kind of whittle those out and then recreate the holes through the sandy paper to make sure that they were still visible as I was doing the project. And I think I pulled back and did most of that off camera, so I'll show you guys that part when I'm finished with it. So now that I have my holes repunched, we're going to move along to putting on the cheesecloth, which again is a replica of those curtains that we had. And, you know, just a general beachy feel. It kind of reminds me of like hammock material, like linen material, you know, all the resort things. And so we're going to kind of put that over. I wanted to drape it somehow over the top. Originally, I thought I wanted the full thing covered, but you know, I changed my mind and I'm allowed to do that. So at this point, I'm just going to try and drape it and see how it comes out. At this point, I was really liking how it's looking. I was still trying to figure out exactly how I was going to have it come across the back and kind of make it a continuous thing as I open the book. I hadn't quite figured that part out. So I'm kind of playing around with the cheesecloth to see how it lays, how flat I can make it, if I want it to be flat, if I want it to fall off the other edge or wrap back around somehow, and just kind of playing with it to figure out how I wanted it to be. Ultimately, I decided it was probably better to minimize the bulk since I had already allowed the sandy paper to kind of take up a lot of space here. And so I started pushing in the corners and pulled it as a single draped layer across the front and back, and cut it there enough to essentially fold it back over itself and secure it on the inside the page. And then that could be covered with whatever I was going to put internally. So once I decided on that, I just stretched the fabric back out to make sure it laid how I wanted it and that it was draped how I wanted it once I secured it. And you know, it's back to the big old glue stick. I just ran it right across that thing, hoping that enough of it would get down to the sandy paper underneath, and also work to keep the pieces of the cheesecloth glued to each other. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I did need my moment of instant gratification, and I stood it up and I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this looks so neat. And I started to obsess over it a little bit. Doesn't that look amazing, guys? I did end up trying to mess around with it a little bit and bring my colors in with the blue paper. I'm not decided on that, and it wasn't giving what I wanted it to give. So I did reach for my papers and started pulling things out. This one with a hot air balloon reminded me of a hot air balloon trip that I took, and I'll be talking to you guys about that eventually. So I pulled that one out. And then as I was going through my little book, I found another one with mountains that look like some in Arizona where I live now. And so I pulled that out. I saw this one of what looks like Santorini. I haven't been there yet, but it's high, high, high on my bucket list. Probably over the next few years, I'll be visiting there. So I pulled that out. I found another one with hot air balloons, and then a few more that had like the vibes that I was going for overall with the traveling book, a few more for the beach, some writing and things like that. You know, all with the kind of travel vibes to it. This one had, I think, some stamps and postmarks and things like that on there. I was looking more so for like passport markings, but that was close enough. So I just pulled it out as an option and kind of laid them on top of each other, seeing how they might be arranged, taking another look at them. I also bought these textured paper stacks from Amazon, and I can link those if you guys are interested. Just let me know. But I pulled those out and kind of started deciding what was going to go together. Did I want something in a background? Did I want more solid paper color? And I pulled everything up to kind of take another look at what I might want to finalize here. So kind of just arranging. These were my top paper picks that I felt really described the vibe that I wanted. And now I'm just kind of arranging it. It's like, that's okay. I wasn't really feeling the blue in the background. I didn't feel like something about it. I don't know. It didn't bring it all together for me. But I liked how the papers themselves looked together, so I kept that part. And again, just kind of trying this piece. It was okay. Did I like this piece instead? The beige kind of spoke to me. I like that together. Let's see. At this point, I'm pretty decided on the papers. I like the way they look together, but kind of just trying to find some little accents that might tie them in. Maybe some little hints of orange, or there were some kind of dark blue or like greens that were going on with the paper. So I was trying some of those and just trying to see what might fit. I ended up coming across this orange brown flecked stone looking piece that I felt fit and coordinated a little bit better than the original beige piece that I had there. So I sat that one underneath, kind of bricked it in or to the side to see what the flow would look like between the pictures. And I really liked that one. So we'll tuck that in. We'll keep that one and kind of keep looking for others. So at this point, the blue really wasn't vibing for me. It wasn't meshing in my mind. And so I tried to change the Santorini picture to maybe make things more spatially even to see if I liked it that way, and to maybe do something else with the blue on top. And I still, no matter how I kind of put the things, I liked how they looked together, but not how they looked where they were. So I ended up just taking all of this off and deciding to redo it on the cleaner space of the internal cover instead. So now I flipped it over and was taking another look, and really liked how the cheesecloth just kind of, I don't know, it gave it the pictures a net to sit in, and I like that look. So I went ahead and rearranged everything on this side in a way that I thought would look good, keeping the basic kind of triangular or pyramid type setup of the picture pages the way that I had them, and using the paper as accent pieces. I did want to add more to fill up the spaces on the top left and right corners. So I went back and grabbed some of the other papers that I thought might work and put them there as placeholders. Now that I had the orange flecked piece, I wasn't really feeling the beige as much, but I kept it there since it worked before until I found something else. And I did end up having to open maybe 2 or 3 other packs of the papers that I had, just to pull out other options. And you can see me here kind of color matching between things I thought might work. Again, I thought we had some of the dark grays and the greens in some of the pictures, especially at the Santorini at the top. This brown one, immediately I was like, oh, that one's it. So I left that one there, and then pulled the other 2 from the other side to make sure that whatever I got would coordinate between that brown that I picked and then the orange flecked one that I picked. And so I ended up finding this really pretty butterfly embossed kind of ragged edge piece in my accent papers as well, and really loved it. And I'm big on butterflies. It's one of my spirit animals. So I included that and kind of set it to the side. I thought it'd be a nice touch with the flowers on the page. And I'm a big fan of florals, and will be adding several pictures of flowers and things that I take to my travel book as well. Like, that's usually part of the travel experience for me. So adding the floral butterfly element is, chef's kiss as far as making a personal book for myself. And so I was still kind of looking, and I felt like these trio of papers was a good match for everything. I liked the way it looked. I was still kind of looking for maybe one more accent color or something to kind of give things a pop. But I like to start with a clean base and then kind of build up. And even if I finish, quote unquote, finish something today, there's always space to come back and add more, or, do something else, or add a little pop or a hint of something that makes sense if it coordinates. That's always been a beauty of the junk journaling that I've really enjoyed. So I found this kind of striated. It kind of looks like old wicker furniture, or maybe like a woven basket, like a basket weave print that they had. And I like that too. I really do like wicker furniture, and that kind of thing, like Golden Girl era stuff, is really cute to me. So I included that as well to see how I could build it in as an accent to the page. And now that I've gotten everything organized and I'm happy with it, you can see my final decision hands, my my hands of contentment and this is it before I move forward, and an okay, let's do this. And, now I'm deciding exactly how I want to have it all arranged. So I took everything back off and started gluing my trifecta of pictures down to make the base. So I left the mountainous van picture down as kind of an anchor for where everything was, as I used my big old glue stick to start with the hot air balloon picture. Trying to get, close to the edges. Um, Not really caring if I'm being messy here again, because this glue stick goes down clear, allegedly. I need to check it and make sure. we'll we'll have an update on that in a future video. But anyway, gluing down the hot air balloons here and making sure that they're all flat or flat enough. It actually did not have a big issue sticking down to the cheesecloth. Everything stayed in place much better than I assumed it would when I first started. So that was awesome. And now that I had the hot air balloons glued down, I went ahead and did the same thing for the mountainous van picture, getting close to the edges and all through the middle to make sure I have a solid foundation. And then just getting it as smooth as possible. And just taking the time here to remind myself that a loose edge is fine. A wrinkle here and there is okay. There's not going to be a company stakeholder meeting about, how you put these glued pieces of paper together on a piece of cardboard. Like, this is special to you because it's special to you. And it's not being graded, it might be critiqued, I guess, by those of you out there that want to do that. But at the end of the day, this is something that you're doing for a space of peace and calm and a space of reflection for you. And as long as it's something that I'm happy with, I'm going to be okay with it. And I hope that you look at your art the same way. I'm showing you guys. I'm very happy with it so far. I like the way that it looks. I like the way that it feels. I like what it's giving me. So now I decided how I was going to put my accent papers here. I kind of decided to use the top ones, the embossed one here, and then the brown one on the other corner as picture frames. I hadn't decided if I was going to do picture pockets or exactly what I would put there. Maybe some of my favorite vacation pictures ever. Maybe a note to myself about why I made this book and what it's for, to remind me of, what it is when I open it. I hadn't quite decided there yet, but I thought that they would be good placeholders to kind of just put there for when the time came that I did want to add something else into it. And so I'm gluing both of those. Again, just kind of using the little white pieces as picture placeholders, depending on what I want to put there. And then I went ahead and did the same thing, kind of angled it. So I finished that up and put another placeholder there for pictures later on, just in case. And then I went down to the bottom pieces that I had, and I was thinking, like, I don't think I want another picture here. I think I want to do something a bit more artsy or creative, something to make the page pop or something to make it special. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it yet. Ultimately ended up like, let's make a few circles out of the accent paper that you have to kind of see if it's something that I want to, dot around the page, or do I want to make something out of the circles? Do I want some type of angular, accentual piece? But it all starts with the circle. So let's just start there. I did use my blade pen. I'm going to call it something different every single time until I decide on a name, guys. Sorry. But I decided to use the blade pen. I think I like that best. To make some little circles with the orange flecked accent paper that I used. And kind of started lining them up on the page as I got finished with them to see how they looked and decide on the placement. At first, I was kind of deciding whether or not to cover up this empty space that was left under the Santorini picture and between the two other pictures that I had here. And I was just going to, like you saw, just kind of cover it with a dot and see. And then I was like, let's make a few more circles. And as with most things in my art repertoire, eventually it turned into a flower. So now I was making flower petals and arranging them into their nice little circle, and deciding how many petals I wanted on that flower, how big it needed to be, and what I wanted it to look like, as I kept cutting out pieces and kind of arranging things here on the page. So I ended up making 6 petals out of the piece of paper that I had. I think I ended up I probably could have cut maybe one or two more, but I didn't want to make things too bulky or have the, I guess, accent of the flower be too overwhelming on the page or like overtake everything. I just wanted it to be a part. So I thought the 6 petals would be fine with the way that they were covering up the space and kind of placing themselves on the page. And since the woven wicker paper was already sitting there, I went ahead and just made that my stem. I thought it looked really nice underneath the orange paper the way that it was. So I used the pen blade to go ahead and carve out the stem of the flower. and then used the leftover that I had from that paper to continue and make leaves for the flower as well to make it more complete. I still had a few pieces of the paper left, so I also cut a few strips to use to accent different places, and I also made a little piece to go in the center of my flower as the kind of the pollen space as well to kind of pull things together. After that, I was still looking for a way to cover the bottom portion since I decided to curve the stem of the flower. It didn't quite cover everything at the bottom that I had left between the two bottom pictures. And so I was still kind of looking for something. I saw that I still had an interesting edge on the piece of paper that I used to cut the circles out of. So I went ahead and grabbed that and cut the edge off the bottom of it to use as a piece of tape or an accent somewhere. But it didn't quite cover the space still. So I started looking at different pieces of accent paper that I still had left, maybe one more that might fit in here with everything that I had going on. I think I could still pull off the look of the page and not make it overly busy with maybe one more pattern. What is one more pattern gonna do, guys? You know, can you really have too many? Can you really truly have too many? I'm gonna say no. But while I was looking for another accent piece, I ended up looking at the packaging that my papers came in, and the flower that they had on the packaging was actually pretty similar to the one that I had just made out of paper. And so I took it and angled the edges so that I could make a little sticker or accent piece, maybe a tape piece or something to do with it, and kind of just plucked it down there at the bottom to see if it would fill in the space, even though I wasn't quite sure about that part yet. So now, guys, I'm looking through my sticker books and my paper book and trying to decide. I came across this airline travel sticker that was really cute, and I wanted to make sure that I had some type of travel documentation, passport, something on my internal page. So I decided to use that as kind of an edge sticker for one of the pictures and accent that there. And I really like how that looked. And then I went ahead and angled the pieces of the wicker paper to use as the corner markers. I thought that it would add a bit more flair and finish to the look. And once I angled them, I really liked it. So I went ahead and got my big old glue stick and glued that one into place to be opposite of that airline sticker that I put down. At that point, I was pretty happy with how everything was looking and the placement of everything. So I went ahead and started gluing down the different components of the flower. And when I'm gluing something down that has all of these like layered components, it's always easiest for me to leave the bottommost layer down as an anchor point so that I can kind of glue everything back together around it. If you guys have any tips or tricks for things like that, please drop down in the comments and let me know. Once I got done with the flower, I wanted it to have a little bit of 3D pizzazz. So I took some extra ends of the sandy paper that we used in the beginning to cover everything up and just cut off some sprigs on the end of it to make some embellishments, kind of like a bouquet for the flowers. So I'm adding those to both of the sides once I see how they looked, and kind of twisted them around to give a bit more of a 3D pop. And even if the book closes and they get smashed a little bit, they'll still have that texture to allow them to pop off of the page. And now that the flower is pretty much done, I still have this little hole of empty space that I just have to fill. And I tried to fit the cutout flower from the packaging little sticker that I made, and didn't quite like how it looked there. So I started experimenting with putting it at the top, maybe one side or the other of my picture frames. And I kind of liked how the symmetry of the tape, semi-tape sticker look came out when I placed them there. So that kind of became the final decision on that. And I needed something else to fill in this space instead. So I started digging back through my piles of paper and actually ended up opening a different stack that I hadn't gotten too deep into before, but it had a bunch of like blotchy patchwork I'm showing you there. And I think it would kind of bring that finishing touch into the page. So immediately as I saw that the colors matched, I just cut off a little square and tucked it under everything and into the flower stem. Now, of course, once I got that glue on there, it was not as easy to tuck in as it was when it was dry, but we made it work. We got it done, and I think it looks amazing. At this point, I also went ahead and glued the small piece that we took from the stone paper that we made the flower petals from, and glued that. Now that that's done, I went ahead and started gluing down the sticker that I made from the packaging, as well as the tape, quote unquote, tape piece that I made from the wicker paper to get that completed. And for today, guys, this is it. We're pretty much completed. Just kind of turning over these picture placeholders to see if there are any other colors or variations I would want to work in once I get that part situated. But yeah, I'm super happy with how everything came out. It looks so beautiful. I'm obsessed with it. And if you guys enjoyed it, please put it in the comments below. Tell me what you're working on. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your alarm bells for our upcoming content. And I'll see you guys next time.